Hi, so today I'm going to show you how I grid from a smaller scale drawing. I have a simple logo of mine that I've created for my paintings and things like that, up to a larger scale format. And this is specifically for my design class, but this is applicable for everyone that wants to take a smaller image, a smaller drawing, even a photograph, and transfer it to a larger scale, whether it's going to be a drawing or for a painting on canvas. You can do that as well. So the first thing I did, I have my small design, and you can see I have the T, my double T, and then I swoop through to cross it, and it also creates the N for my middle initial. And then I have a circle because I love to incorporate the sun and the moon into a lot of my work. So it's a very simple design, and I kept it simple. My students are working on a text project right now where they're using text, lettering, symbols, stuff like that. And they have to paint it with analogous color, and that'll be the next video. But there are a lot of ways that you can grid. There are a lot of great videos on it on YouTube. You can transfer drawings using transfer paper, or even putting graphite or charcoal on the back of your drawing once it's enlarged and transferring it. But for this situation, I have a small drawing. I need it to go onto here. So the first thing that I did was, with my drawing, this is my interior rectangle, which is this one right here. And this measures about 4.5 inches by 5.5 inches. And the easiest thing for me to do in this case to fit onto here was just double the size of that. So I'm multiplying the width and the height by 2. So it's a 1 to 2 inch scale. So what I did is I just took my ruler and I measured, marking off inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then same thing vertically. And so if this is 4.5, this doubled up would be at about 9 inches across. And then if this is 5.5, this would be 11 inches vertically. So I drew in this rectangle, and then I created my grid just using 1-inch squares going across and then vertically. And I mark it from the upper left corner with a 0, and I go across 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see that. And then same thing going down. We use the same method when we work on murals during the summertime back in Michigan a lot, or anywhere for that matter, or large scale paintings. You want to do the same thing. You start in the upper left and you work your way across, and you keep it consistent with your larger piece. If this is 1 inch, then this would be going across 2 inches. 2 inches, so 2, 4, 6, 8, and whatever is left over. But if I consistently start in the same corner, work my way down, I'm not going to run into the problem of placement of where things need to be. So anyways, I'm just duplicating, and it's proportionately the same. So working with my drawing so that you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it or not, I did the grid in blue and left the pencil mark, and I did the same thing on here. If you're working on here, I used a colored pencil because I'm going to be painting mostly in blues. But for your situation, I would probably just draw really light in pencil so that you can erase it. If you're working in acrylic or oils, that's not going to matter so much. But if you're working with watercolor or a drawing, you're going to want to draw your grid really light, because otherwise it'll be kind of hard to erase it. So the next step, once I have my grid drawn in and it's duplicated here proportionately, I can start looking at my design here And since I labeled it across with measurements, I can find the square to match it up here. So whatever shapes are happening in one square, it would duplicate here. So to give you a good example, looking at my design, I would probably start with, my verticals here, and I want to find where do they sit over here. So if I look just in this area right here, it's between the vertical 2 and 3, and then it's between the 1 and 2. So if I go down, I'm between 2 and 3, and then I go over, I'm between 1 and 2, which I marked up here. So it is in this area that's right here. And all I'm doing is, as I look at it, so I'm in this square right here, and I'm going over and I'm seeing this vertical, and it's kind of halfway between this vertical and that vertical. So I can mark that somewhere around the halfway mark. This one goes in just a little bit, but kind of see the fraction of where that is. And it's basically split between this one and that. I moved over, I thickened it up a little bit. Obviously, as an artist, you have license to do that. And these are straight verticals that are going to be parallel with my grid lines. So once I have that marked, I just followed along this line, and looking here, it goes up to about the 1. And then where it ends, it's almost at the 5, which is right here. And then this one stops around halfway and then goes up to about here. So you're going to do the same thing when I move over into this section from this vertical here and here. How much space is there? Kind of make a mark. And then this one going over, it is to the left, or to the right, I'm sorry, of the middle. So make a mark there. I want them to be equal as far as width, so I might use my ruler to measure that. And then the same thing, matching up. I extended it a little more than I want to. So it just goes up right here, and you see how it starts matching up. And then same thing on the bottom, where this comes down and where this comes down. So I have my 2 verticals. Now for where I would start my big swoop, that I like to call it, I have to find, okay, between 3 and 4, 3 and 4, 3 and 4, go over, and it is between 2 and 3. And this part is about halfway between here and here. So I'm going to go up, and I'm just kind of starting to mark it. So this part, I say so a lot, right here, it comes right out from the corner from here. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that. I'm looking, kind of drawing my eye up, and I'm looking at how it goes above this line and where it crosses here. So I marked right here. And then I'm also looking at, I'm looking at shape too, to kind of mirror that onto here, and how it comes out of the border, it swoops down, I come along this line, and I'm marking there. And I notice outside my border, between this one and this one, is about halfway over. And then coming down here, it's not quite halfway down between 3 and 4. It's just a little bit above it. And then it's going to come back up again. So all I'm doing is looking at where my drawing crosses over the different lines, how these shapes look within each square. So when you look here, it should basically look the same when you're done here. And once I have that done from marking it, I can sketch it in lightly, and then if you have French curves, you can clean it up, which I will do. For my circle, I'm just going to mark approximate, because it doesn't have to be exact, some areas that are really easy to find. So where it crosses here on this second line down, cuts right through the middle. So right here is where that would cross over. Then I look up here as it crosses over this number 1 vertical. I look at this shape where it crosses there, and I have that. And I look here. It's not halfway. It's not quite 1/4 up. It's just above it. So if I look at my halfway mark, I look at my quarter mark here, it's going to be right about here. And then I'm also mirroring this that comes through here. And then follow your eye where it goes right here. And it breaks past that vertical here just a little bit. And then it cuts through here on the inside of that corner. And I'm just making light marks. I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully you can see it. And I'm not drawing all the way through because I cannot draw a perfect circle. I don't know who can. So this would come all the way down. And I'm looking here. So I have my blue vertical, and then I have my actual drawing. So I'm looking at what is happening there, coming through. And I can start to see, same thing here in this corner, my circle form. Once I have that, and if I have my actual drawing in, I used this as my center point. So I'm going to use my compass to draw my circle. And that's basically going to be my sun and then my crescent moon that's built into it. I added little circles here just for extra kind of balancing out thing. I like things in 3s. So I'm going to start working on that. Okay. Okay, so now I have the design drawn in here, and I've erased any marks that kind of get in the way, a lot of my sketchiness, and just clean it up using French curves. I have a bunch of these, and they're really helpful for drawing some really fun things. If you don't have French curves, that's fine. Just the best way to work around that is you have to really follow every area of each square and match it up. And just, it's kind of like if you make marks throughout where they cross these grid lines, it's like connecting the dots a little bit. So, I mean, on a large scale drawing, you're not going to be able to use something like this. If you have like a really big canvas, or even if you're doing a mural, you're not going to have French curves to work with. So you have to really follow what is happening in each square. Most important thing is, I think, is to number them. It really helps you keep track, and it matches up to your smaller drawing. They're the same proportion, so you can't really go wrong as long as you keep it really consistent and start in one corner. You could, I chose to do the upper left. You could do the upper right. Just don't do upper left on one and then upper right on the other, because then you're going to run into problems. So anyways, cleaning this all up, just a few things. This project that we're working on in my class, is, it's a text project, but they have to show, they're working with analogous color, and they have to show some transparencies. So that's why there's overlapping happening here, where normally I might erase certain lines. I'm not going to do that, because in these areas where one part of the lettering or design crosses over another, that's an area of transparency that we are going to be discussing when I do the color demo. And also here, I didn't close off my ends, because I'm going to try and do a fade out from the background color into the actual letters here. So I'm going to try it. Don't know that it's going to work, but you know, gotta be gutsy sometimes and try new things, right? So, and then I wanted to break my border, at least here, because otherwise it'll feel too constrained. And then it's one thing I don't like is feeling constrained. So I like busting out of the border. It's like busting out of the box. And a couple of things we've talked about is with design, there's a balance that needs to happen. There's unity and variety that are really important, and balance, obviously, but the unity and variety part is, you know, the unity is the overlapping. It connects two different things. So I have a couple very different styles. I have very rectilinear, straight edges, and then a big curve. When you overlap that, it makes two become one, and they work nicely together. They contrast each other. They create a nice balance. It's not all straight edges and corners. It's a little bit of straights and curves to give it a little more visual interest. So there's that, and circles with rectangles. That's another way. Very simple geometric shapes that balance each other out instead of just one or the other. Play with both. I'm having my students do a little bit more than this. This is just simple because I need to go through this pretty quick, but that's the gist of it for transferring your drawing. And like I said, there's a lot of great videos on YouTube on gridding, gridding photographs. So if you feel like you can't draw, you might surprise yourself with how easy it is to do something like this. You just have to have patience with yourself, go slow, and be observant of, you know, your original drawing that might be easier to do with templates and compasses and rulers and things like that, which is pretty much what I did. I started out with a very basic sketch, and then I just cleaned it up. And then transfer that to a larger scale using a very consistent proportional grid format. And that's it.